Yeah, I don't know. Okay. All right. Stand by, everybody. I'm on Brenda Hill show. We'll be back from break in a couple minutes here. Stand by. We're on 9:10 a.m. the Superstation WFDF. How's everybody doing? We just went to commercial break, back from break in 4 minutes. My show will be on at 11 p.m. Tonight. So stand by. Share this broadcast on social media platforms. Stand by. I'll be back at 11 p.m. for my show. Okay, who we have here? Okay, you got Jade. Let's move this up here just a second. Okay, so on my show at 11 p.m., we'll talk about Barbados is going to build a slave museum dealing with the history of slavery in Barbados. We know that Barbados just cut ties with Queen Elizabeth II and removed her as the head of state of Barbados. That took place last week.
I want you to talk about your show. We have someone on the line.
Okay.
So we're going to go to her first. Sheila.
Okay.
Yes. Hello.
Question or comment?
Hi.
Thank you, Sheila.
Hi, this is Sheila. Listen, I am so upset about what had happened here. This was not this woman's first rodeo. She's been coming in here to this city, and her and several other people. We have had complaints constantly of how our Black children, how our Black women have been missing, like the women on Hubble and Schoolcraft area is missing. I mean, it's been constant talk of so many Black people are missing. And because we don't have money to follow through and put rewards out like this, it's a deaf ear turn to our people missing. I'm just trying to understand, how in the world do they have the nerve to come into a Black city and lure our children into their vans and their cars and do whatever it is, whether it's, selling body parts or sex trafficking or whatever? Something has to be done about this, Brenda. This is really sad to me, and it bothers me.
And so, Sheila, my suggestion is to go on the Board of Police Commissioners meeting. It's Thursdays at 3 o'clock. You can get the Zoom on the city's website. Just put in Board of Police Commissioners. Also, every week, there's a neighborhood meeting. It was today at 5 o'clock. But go on the city website, and we need to talk about this. We need to bring up The fact that
We need to talk about it.
Listen, yes, we do.
We are
And there
too
needs to
quiet and we're not talking, and we need to put an end to this. This is unreal.
Absolutely. Thank you.
It's
Thank
really
you.
sad me,
Is this
and I
your
thank you
first
for
time?
taking my call.
Thank you. Is this your first time calling? All right. She's gone.
She's gone, Brenda.
Okay, thank you. Can we bring James on and then John?
Go ahead, James.
Hello, Brenda. How you doing, Brenda?
Okay, say hi to my guest as well, Michael Imhotep.
Hello,
James.
Mr. Michael.
Hello, James.
Hey, Brenda, this sex trafficking, that white van, if they want to, they can reverse them cameras, follow that van in reverse, and see where it picked the kids up, where the van left early that morning from. That's if they want to. There's cameras at every major intersection. You got 4 cameras on every corner. So let's see if they do their homework.
Well, let's see. But how we make sure they do it? Because, yes, there are cameras up and down Grand River. She supposedly abducted those children at, they didn't tell us exactly where, but she got stopped at Grand River and Evergreen. So we have to put the pressure on the police. Chief James White comes on the Board of Police Commissioners meeting every Thursday at 3 o'clock. And the same thing with the neighborhoods meeting. And this was District 1. Need to go to the District 1 meeting. But put the pressure on the folks that do this. But however, we probably have to protect our own children. And that's what we
That's right.
That's what we have to do. James,
Right.
thank you for calling in.
Okay, Brenda.
Let's talk. John.
Hello, yeah, Brenda. That lady, that first lady called you. She said it's been happening now, and she just not complaining about it. I don't understand why was she so fussed up about it. Now she talking. She said she knew about it. That's what it sounded like. I don't know how you thought about it, how you feel about it, but it seems like she knew about it all the time and so forth. She ain't just not saying something about it. That's what I don't understand about people. Some of them know a lot of stuff, but they don't feel saying something about it. You not fresh, Brenda. Well, people got to open their mouth when they see something suspicious. They got to say something, Brenda. They can't just say that like a not on the law and they saying nothing. Because, I mean, she could have been doing it for quite a while. Nobody never knows. But I just wanted to say, Brenda, that it's a little part out there when shot in the woman's house last night and hit her 4-year-old daughter. And I want folks to turn him in, too. Because he had no business doing that and so forth. And I just want to say that, Brenda. But again, somebody know who did it. Somebody know him. And he's shooting and answering her daughter and so forth.
Thank you, Mr. John. Thank you. And everybody should know, if you see something, say something. You could call 1-800-SPEAK UP. That's Crime Stoppers. Almost everything has a reward on it. But there's no point in having police if you can't call them. And you can call 911 as well. We got another caller. I lost their name.
Bailey.
Michael. Bay Reed.
Hey,
How are you?
yes. I'm all right. How you doing? I know it's been a while since we talked. Hey, Mike, how you doing, Mike?
All right, how you doing, baby?
Mike, everybody, listen. Mike, you're one of the wisest guys on the history buff to date. And you stay on what you're doing. And then you keep Michael on there because you need to be abreast and alarmed of what's going on. Another thing, you need to bring these churches back in order. The members of the churches in the Black Club, you need to open them back up, bring the preachers back to order, because they're so far ahead of themselves that they're not with their congregation anymore. Because it starts at home, and the church is supposed to be at home. Detroit used to be a religious
religious shit. We just got away from that. We need to open these churches back up, have these members at these churches, have these block clubs come together, and we start coming together doing the same thing that we used to do when our kids was going to school. Being out there walking, being out there looking, being out there lurking. Another thing, that woman to get the license plate, they got the license plate. We need to research her area, research her home. They need to go through her home. She got a background in history of this thing. That starts there, and we need to put our black organization in front of us for them to start doing something for the people. They're not the city council. They need to bring that out there. They need to open it up. And I know the area where it happened at, whoever got that area, we need to be in there behind, because they supposed to lead us, they're supposed to guide us, and they're supposed to help us. The ones of the city council that's got that area and the churches, we need to bark on them. Let the people start coming back to order. Because going and doing what the mayor wants them to do, they ain't doing nothing for us. We need to bring them back, and we giving them our time. They need to give us our time, and they need to do what they need to do for us. Brenda, you keep doing what you're doing, and forgive me, I've been sick, baby. I had a stroke, but I'm coming back up. And Mike, all right, you keep doing what you're doing, Mike. I know I owe you something. And how's that baby doing? That young man, Robert, the last one you had. That's the last time we talked, Mike.
Okay. All right, Baby.
You be good.
All right, thanks.
Thank you, Baby. Thank you for calling in. All right, Michael. We got 3 minutes on this side, and then we're going to get deep into what we outlined that we're going to talk about.
Okay.
So, Michael, you come on after me tonight,
Right.
but I want you to talk about the African History Network and when you're on this station.
Well, yeah, I'm on Monday through Friday, 11 p.m. to midnight Eastern Standard Time, and then Sundays, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on 9:10 a.m. the Superstation WFDF. It's the African History Network show. So we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world. We deal with current events, history, etc. I deal with a lot of national topics also. You can visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. We have information there on our website. You can listen to audio podcasts of our shows, and you can follow me on Facebook, The African History Network on Facebook, The African History Network, or Michael Imhotep, IMHOTEP, on Facebook and YouTube.
Michael,
Yeah.
When we get back in person, people should come out and see you. You not
Right.
only talk the talk and walk the walk, but you have videos to teach people. You have seminars to teach
Right.
people.
Right.
Right.
I was gonna give
you
my
have books
email address. Yeah.
to teach people.
Yeah, people, if you want me to do a presentation for your group or organization, Kwanzaa, Dr. King Day, African American History Month, email me at ahnshow@africanhistorynetwork.com. AHN-show stands for African History Network. AHN-show@africanhistorynetwork.com. You can also call me 313-462-0003, 313-462-0003, or you can contact me through my website, and I speak at churches. We can speak at corporations. So we can, and also I teach online classes on the weekend, but I can create a class also for your organization in person or virtually as well.
And everybody should have Michael come out to their organization as well. I think the first time I saw you, Michael, we were at the African Museum.
Yeah, Charles H. Wright
Warren.
Museum. Yeah.
African American Museum. I think
Right.
that's the first time I saw you.
Okay.
But I can't remember because you're everywhere. You're always knowledgeable and giving out the knowledge. But everybody should listen to a show. If you only listen for 10 or 15 minutes, you find out something that you did not know, but it affects your life today. All the time. He's going to leave me at 10:30, so he gets ready for a show.
Right.
And keep your radio on and your Facebook on, because he talks about everything. And he talks about, our history and how we got here. We're going to talk about that on the other side of the break.
Okay.
This is Brenda Hill.
All right, stand by, everybody. Stand by. Hey, if you still need to register for the online course I teach on Saturdays and Sundays, it's at our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa. Understand the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach you in school. We do that on Sundays. And then it's 12 noon and 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then also Saturdays from the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement and Black Power, 1865 to 1968. Okay. And we have a special bundle pack. You can register for both classes for only $70, regularly $130 each. We still have that promotion going on. So that's at our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. All right. I'll post a link here. We're on commercial break. I'm on Brenda Hill show. We'll be back in a few minutes. Stand by. Stand by.
Put in place outside of slavery, and we talked about the Casual Killing Act, get white women off from killing children, and I'm sure it's still in place in some states. You know, slavery wasn't outlawed in Mississippi till 1960 something. Even though the 13th Amendment was in 1865.
Well, the 13th.
So we have the
Brenda.
Go ahead.
The 13th Amendment was ratified in Mississippi in 2013, but it was already 2013, but it already went into effect December 6, 1865, when Georgia ratified the 13th Amendment. So it already changed the Constitution, but Mississippi as a state did not ratify it until 2013. And it was when the movie Lincoln came out, and it was somebody that saw the movie Lincoln, started doing research, and found out that Mississippi had not ratified the 13th Amendment. Now other laws like the Casual Killing Act, I don't know for certain they're still on the books. I don't know, because this is 1669. This is even before the Philadelphia Convention of 1787, where the Constitution was drafted. So I don't know that for certain, but you do have slavery era.
On the next stuff.
Yeah, you do have some slavery era laws still on the books. One was just removed in Georgia in May of 2021, which dealt with citizens' arrests, and that goes back to 1863 during the Civil War, when Georgia was part of the Confederacy.
And explain why that was instituted, and it was part of the Michael Bryant trial. They killed Ahmaud Arbery, right. But they were claiming that they were trying to make a citizen's arrest. And we have to understand that's how white folks especially in the South, but in the North as well, use those laws to get away with killing black people.
Right.
Same thing. It's called Stand Your Ground in Florida, the New Mississippi, and that was used in the Trayvon Martin trial.
Yeah, but
as well. The George Zimmerman trial, and he got off. He initiated the contact, and they were saying Trayvon Martin didn't have the right to fight for his life.
Okay. Now, stand your ground laws go back. Stand your ground laws are modern times. Stand your ground law. Florida was the first state to have the stand your ground law, and that dates back to I think I can't remember the exact years, in the 2000s, I think, or something like that, with the Florida stand your ground law. I think early 2000s. That was pushed. That stand your ground law was pushed by ALEC, American Legislative Exchange Council. ALEC is a organization. It's a right-wing organization, legislative organization, and what it does is, I'm getting feedback, Jayla. What it does is it connects corporate America with members of the state legislature to be able to get bills passed through the state legislature. That's called ALEC, American Legislative Exchange Council. ALEC was founded in the early 1970s. One of the early members of ALEC was a man named John Engler, who became governor of Michigan for 4 terms. Now, if we look specifically at the Georgia citizens arrest law, that dates back to 1863, when Georgia was part of the Confederacy. Okay, and that was a law specifically designed for runaway slaves, and it was to target runaway slaves who were running away from Georgia plantations, running behind Union lines. Okay, and it was to target them. Now, and this is at a time when Georgia wasn't even part of the U.S., and it stayed on the books in Georgia up until May of 2021, when it was repealed after the February 3rd, 2020 killing of Ahmaud Arbery. All right, and with that citizens arrest law now went through some changes, and that citizens arrest law in Georgia was mainly used after slavery, but in recent times it was mainly used dealing with retail theft. Okay, but you had to have either see somebody stealing or something like that, or have knowledge that they stole. Okay, you can't just think somebody did it. Okay, you had to either see them do it or have some knowledge that they did it. So with this, with the McMichael Bryant murder trial, the murder of Ahmaud Arbery, they didn't tell the police they were trying to effectuate a citizen's arrest. They didn't tell Ahmaud Arbery that either. And this is something, basically, it appears they concocted after the fact to try to get off, but it didn't work.
It seems in that case, I saw the video of the police just walking past Ahmaud Arbery on the ground,
right,
and having a conversation with the McMichaels. Travis McMichael, covered in Ahmaud Arbery's blood, he's just allowed to stand there, and his father concocting a story about what they did, and then I just come to find out that Ahmaud was still breathing. When the first police officers got there and walked past him, and I thought the procedure was to administer aid first, but they didn't even go check him. It was until I think the second or the third car of police officers went over there, and he was still breathing. And nobody administered aid. They went to get the story from the white people first.
Right. He was gravely wounded, and but yeah, there was a delay in first aid, any type of aid being administered to him.
Yes, and then that's the citizens arrest, and that's not only implemented in Georgia. was implemented in even some northern states. And Michael, I remember seeing the first part of 12 Years a Slave.
Mm-hmm.
And what struck me is that, and I can't think of his name, the main character,
Solomon
had
Northup.
to have papers in order to walk around the street and show white people his papers for them not to do whatever to them, but to know that he was a free man.
Right. Yeah, that's about Solomon Northup. Yeah.
Northup. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is that's during a time when that was I think it was in the 1840s, 1850s. But that's based on a true story. But what happens is the Fugitive Slave Act of 1850 is going to intensify the it intensifies the abolitionist movement. And what it's going to do is cause more runaway slaves to go into Canada. But there was a business of capturing free African Americans in the North and taking them back into the South and selling them. Okay, that was a business. And that's something that happened to Solomon Northup.
Yeah. And so then over in Florida, we have the Stand Your Ground law that not only killed Trayvon Martin, but I believe his last name is Davis. He was in the van with the music. That guy ended up going to jail.
Right.
But he said he was using the same law, right?
And that was the I think it was, but that was the case about the music was too loud, I think. Yeah. So,
and also another young man, and I'm trying to think of his name, didn't know Michael, that he was at the 7-Eleven and he was telling the white guy to either move his car or don't say anything to his girl. And the guy came up to him and was talking bad to the black guy. The black guy pushed him. He pulled out a gun and shot him and said that he was standing his ground. It's all in Florida. These 3 cases were in Florida.
Yeah, Florida has a long history of racism, and we know it's a Republican state. Florida was one of the first states, probably the first state to have poll taxes in 1889. Florida is also where you had Axe Handle Saturday in Jacksonville, Florida in 1960, which was an attack on civil rights activists who were having sit-ins at lunch counters, Axe Handle Saturday. Florida is also where you had Rosewood, the Rosewood attack, the Rosewood Massacre in 1923, Rosewood, Florida, the movie that John Singleton did. So, and we see what's going on in Florida now as well under Governor Ron DeSantis. So Florida has a long history of that. Florida is also the first state to have the stand your ground law as well. Now, stand your ground laws vary. The stand your ground laws vary a little bit from state to state. Florida had one of the most ambiguous or nebulous stand your ground laws. Okay, some states are more defined with their stand your ground laws. Yeah. All right. All right. Okay. Stand by, everybody. Stand by, back from break in 4 minutes. I'm on Brenda Hill show. And I have to get out of here 10:30 because I have to get ready for my show at 11 p.m. How's everybody doing? All right. Jade said Florida's nepotism, John Ray. Visit workingwithjohnray.com. Workingwithjohnray.com. Hey, John Ray, do me a favor. Email me another script, John Ray. Email me another script, John Ray. Time it, John Ray. Time the script. Make sure it's between 30 to 60 seconds, but email me another script when you get a chance to. Did I put? Stand by, everybody. Okay, who still needs to register for the online course that I teach on Saturdays, from the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement and Black Power, 1865 to 1968? And then also, you can go to AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. We have the information right on the homepage of our website. I'll pull this up right here. We're on commercial break, back from break in 2 minutes. I'm on Brenda Hill show.
We're going to talk about the Mason-Dixon Line. I'm getting some feedback, Michael.
I'm not sure why you're getting feedback. I don't know what that is.
To the other Michael.
The board op. Okay. Yeah, Mike, check that out, because I was getting some feedback also.
And so we're going to talk about the Mason-Dixon Line, and start with who was Mason, who was Dixon, but where that line is located and what does it mean. And it means something today as well.
Yeah, well, the Mason-Dixon line is the boundary that separates Maryland from Pennsylvania. And it was surveyed in 1767 by Charles Mason and Jeremiah Dixon. Okay. And what it did was, before the Civil War era, and Civil War starts in 1861, it separated slaveholding states from free states. Okay. So Maryland was a slaveholding state. Pennsylvania was a free state. So this was the boundary that separated the boundary that separated those two states, but it also separated the free states basically from slaveholding states, and basically separated the North from the South, the boundary that basically separates the North from the South, okay, crossing the Mason-Dixon line. History.com has some good information on this, which is the official website of the History Channel. Mason and Dixon draw a line dividing the colonies. So that goes back to 1767. And you hear the term Mason-Dixon line, but a lot of times people don't know what it is. And the Mason-Dixon line, these debates over it is also going to lead to the Missouri Compromise of 1820 as well.
And explain the Missouri Compromise. Also, you know, I grew up, and I think most people grew up thinking that Maryland was part of the North. And really, it's not. And I know there's a story about a family, I believe they got away from Kentucky, a slave family, and made it to, maybe it was to Illinois. But the mother, they were found by slave trappers and tried to bring them back. And the story is she killed all her children rather than have them be slaves.
You're talking about Margaret Garner? That the story Beloved is based upon, by Toni Morrison? Yeah, okay. Yeah. Margaret Garner. But so the Missouri Compromise of 1820, this was a bill that passes Congress. And what it does is it organizes the territory that the U.S. gets because of the Louisiana Purchase of 1803. And the Missouri Compromise allowed Missouri to come into the Union as a slaveholding state, and it allowed Maine to come into the Union as a free state. Okay. And what you're going to find is that they had a balance between slaveholding states and free states at this time, okay, in 1820. And now what it's also going to do is it's going to prohibit slavery in the other territories. All right. And this is going to play a part in the Dred Scott case and the Dred Scott Supreme Court decision of 1857, December 6, 1857, because one of the arguments that Dred Scott was making was that he was taken into free territory. One of those territories was Wisconsin. Wisconsin was free because of the Missouri Compromise of 1820. And the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that the Missouri Compromise was unconstitutional because the federal government did not have the authority to dictate to those territories or states or those people living in those territories whether or not they could have slavery. So this nullified Dred Scott's argument. Okay, this is U.S. Supreme Court case Dred Scott versus Sanford, December 6, March 6, 1857. And so a lot of people talk about Justice Taney saying a black man doesn't have any rights that a white man is bound to honor. But when you actually go study that case, what is really doing, what that's really based upon is the Missouri Compromise of 1820 being ruled unconstitutional. And what you have here is, you see, people have to understand the judicial branch of the federal government does not make law, they interpret law. And here you have the judicial branch of the federal government interpreting law, which from the legislative branch of the federal government, because the Missouri Compromise was passed by Congress. Okay, so they and they struck it down based upon stating that it was unconstitutional.
We we skipped over the Dred Scott decision. I know we talked about it on another show.
Yeah, we talked about it last time. What time before last?
What it showed was that a slave brought his master before the Supreme Court, saying that because he was in a free state, he should be freed. Can you explain the Dred Scott decision a little more?
Well, yeah, he was taken into different territories, and he had more than one slave owner. But one of the territories he was taken into that was free territory was the territory of Wisconsin. Okay, and it was Dred Scott and his family, and he goes to court for his freedom because he's saying, well, wait a second, we were taken into free territory, therefore we should be free. Okay. And this is based upon the Missouri Compromise of 1820. Now, now in 1854, you have what's known as the Kansas Nebraska Act of 1854. The Kansas Nebraska Act actually nullifies the Missouri Compromise. In the Kansas Nebraska Act, what this does is this leaves it up to people living in those territories whether or not they're going to have slavery or not. The Kansas Nebraska Act of 1854, and that law infuriates abolitionists because they're trying to stop the spread of slavery. And because of the Kansas Nebraska Act of 1854, you're going to have the Republican Party that's founded in 1854 as a direct backlash to the Kansas Nebraska Act. But long story short, you're going to have that case go through the court. It goes through the courts. It goes through the Missouri State Supreme Court, and it goes to the U.S. Supreme Court, Dred Scott versus Sanford. And U.S. Supreme Court rules that the Missouri Compromise of 1820 is unconstitutional, and that nullifies the argument.
We're coming up on a break, Michael.
Yeah.
But I want to talk about the race and these women who brought charges against the white men, and most of them were gang rapes, and what changed for women and what came after these rapes. Miss Celia, she didn't have a last name, of 1855, and we have Reese Taylor in 1944,
Right.
Betty Dean Owens in 1959 in Florida, and Annette Butler in 1956, Missouri. And you just explained the Mason-Dixon Line. And Michael, I remember my parents driving us to Alabama from New York, and we were fine when we were in the north. But when you cross the Mason-Dixon Line, it is totally different, and you can feel it. You know, we were stopping at Howard Johnson's, to sleep at night and then move on and stuff. But then once we got past the Mason-Dixon Line, there was none of that. We didn't go to hotels.
Right.
In fact, I remember having to go to the bathroom really bad, and we were in the cornfield. And my father was like, "Can't she feel the Coke bottle like the boys?" And it was years later that our father told me that, I had almost got them killed because we were past the Mason-Dixon Line. I believe we were in Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't stop. You don't stop when you get past the Mason-Dixon Line and you're black.
Right.
I mean, it was just like that, night and day.
Yeah,
right?
you're dealing with those former Confederate states. You're dealing with those former Confederate states that took up arms to maintain slavery and committed treason against the government.
A serious subject on the other side of this break. We'll be right back.
All right, stand by, everybody. Stand by. Stand by, back from break in 4 minutes. I have to cut out of here at 10:30 because I have to get ready for my show at my show's at 11. I have to finish getting ready for my show. Stand by. Show. Stand by. Okay, back from break in 3 minutes. Back from break in 2 minutes.
Superstation, a division of Adele Media. The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and or the persons appearing on the program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of 910 AM Superstation or Adele Media.
Michael, about these rapes But I got you for another half hour.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to talk about the insurrection that happened this year in Washington. And what we're tying together here, people, is that same mindset back then is what these folks are using to kill our people, but also change the course of history in this country. We're losing civil rights right now. Elections have consequences. Donald Trump has 3 more conservatives on the
Supreme Court,
and those folks are using their ideologies to determine the course of history going forward, right? And that's not supposed to be the position of the Supreme Court. But we've heard some of the arguments from some of the conservative justices, and it seems like they're using their ideologies to change Roe versus Wade and some other very important laws that have been created. Also, the Civil Rights Act has almost been gutted. The Voting Rights Act has almost been gutted. Michael?
Well, yeah, Section 5 of the Voting Rights Act was gutted in 2013 U.S. Supreme Court case of Shelby County versus Holder, which removed the preclearance. The preclearance dealt with states and territories that had a history of putting obstacles in the way of African Americans voting, in the way of the 15th Amendment, if they wanted to make any changes to locations of polling places, or how many Sundays you have souls to the poll voting, or any changes like that. They had to get clearance by a federal judge. Okay, so Shelby County versus Holder gutted Section 5 of the Voting Rights Act. It stripped away the pre-clearance. So right after that Supreme Court decision, within about 24 hours, states started passing voter restriction bills. And in the 2016, that 2013 U.S. Supreme Court case, that was a backlash to the 2012 presidential election, where President Barack Obama was reelected to a second term. But the percentage of African Americans voting, surpassed the percentage of white people voting for the first time in history. And that scared a lot of Republicans, and they come back with that Supreme Court case. It went through the federal appeals court, and then the 2016 presidential election, there were 868 fewer polling places in the 2016 presidential election, because those polling places had been shut down as a result of Section 5 of the Voting Rights Act being gutted. And a lot of those polling places were shut down in areas that had a higher African American, Latino populations. Today, there are about 1,700 fewer polling places. Okay, see, that's the consequences of elections. And one of the things that Trump ran on in 2016 was getting conservative Supreme Court justices confirmed and conservative federal judges. He got 225 federal judges confirmed also, because in 2014, when Democrats lost control of the Senate, Mitch McConnell became Senate Majority Leader, and he blocked not just the 2016 Supreme Court nomination of Merrick Garland by President Barack Obama, but he blocked federal judge nominations as well. So when Trump became president, because he won Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania by 78,000 votes and got 306 electoral college votes, there were 103 vacancies on the federal bench. Okay, so Trump got to fill those vacancies and push those through the Senate. And unfortunately, many of us don't understand how all this is connected. The Senate, the Supreme Court, the federal bench, the White House, and this does not involve the U.S. House of Representatives, because the Senate confirms Supreme Court justices and the Senate confirms federal judges, not the House of Representatives, where the majority of African American elected officials in the federal government are. Most of them are in the House of Representatives, because a House district is only 710,000 people. Whereas when you're a U.S. senator, you represent millions of people. You however many people in that state. Okay, so we have to understand how all this is connected, and how politics is the legal distribution of scarce wealth, power, and resources, and the writing of laws, statutes, ordinances, amendments, and treaties, the adoption, interpretation, and enforcement, and elections have consequences and long-term consequences. Lastly, I'll say this: because a federal judgeship is a lifetime appointment, whereas a president can only serve for 4 or 8 years. A federal judge is a lifetime appointment, so they can be there 30, 40 years or more.
Right. Or more. They have to step down or they die as a Supreme Court judge as well. Let's talk about the race of the women that I talked. Let's talk about Miss Celia and what she did that brought the rights of slaves, and especially women, to light.
You're talking about Celia?
Yeah, Celia.
The slave trial of Celia. Okay, so that was a slave woman. That's around 1855, and that was in Missouri, and it was a case where she killed her slave master. Her slave master was attempting to rape her, and she killed her slave master. It's been some time since I looked at that case, but it took place in 1855 in Missouri, and she ended up there's an article from, I've looked at this before, there's an article from Washington Post about this: Missouri versus Celia, Celia. Celia, a slave, she killed the white master raping her, then claimed self-defense. Okay, and it was self-defense. So in Missouri in 1855, it was a crime, quote, to take any woman unlawfully against her will, and by force, menace, or duress compel her to be defiled, end quote, allowing women to argue self-defense and resisting such assaults. But now Celia's court-appointed defense lawyer argued that she did have the right to claim self-defense and defend herself, and he asked Circuit Court Judge William Hall to instruct the jury that a slave master had no right to rape a slave, and that the slaying could be considered justifiable. Okay, but the judge refused to give the jury those instructions. Instead, Judge Hall told the 12 white men weighing the evidence, quote, if Newsom was in the habit of having intercourse with the defendant who was his slave and went to her cabin on the night he was killed to have intercourse with her, or for any other purpose, and while he was standing in the floor talking to her, she struck him with a stick, which was a dangerous weapon, and knocked him down, and struck him again after he fell and killed him by either blow, it is murder in the first degree, end quote. So this was a Henry Louis Gates Jr. talks about this, I think, in his book African Americans, Many Rivers to Cross. I think he talks about it in that case of Celia. Celia pleaded not guilty. She had pleaded not guilty. She confessed to the crime, according to Jefferson Jones, who investigated the killing. And so this is one of those probably one of those early. Well, there are a number of self-defense cases or incidences of African people defending themselves, even during slavery. Okay, there are a number of these. Whether you talk about Amistad slave ship, whether you talk about something like this with Celia, and then also you even have some cases where African Americans sue for their freedom. Okay, Mum Bet, Elizabeth Freeman would probably be the best known case in Massachusetts. Okay, and she actually won her freedom. So that's something that's talked about in African Americans, Many Rivers to Cross as well. The series on PBS and the book by Henry Louis Gates Jr.
And every Black person should have this book. The other one by the younger author, he has the little son Coach. Everyone should have that book.
Ta-Nehisi Coates.
Have the Color of Law.
Ta-Nehisi Coates.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And The Color of Law. That's another book every Black person should have and should read as well. Let's talk about the Reese Taylor case, 1944, Alabama.
Yeah, so with Reese Taylor, this was a African American woman who was gang raped, and Reese Taylor just died a few years ago. There's a she just died recently, but this was a 1944 rape. She was gang raped by 6 white men, and the NAACP is going to come to her aid and try to find leads for it. Those white men were not brought to justice. Rosa Parks was a sexual assault investigator for the NAACP, and Rosa Parks investigated this. This is before, of course, the bus. This week.
Say that again, because people don't know that Rosa Parks was an integral part of the civil rights movement, not just the bus.
Right.
She was well trained, and she was important to the civil rights movement.
Yeah. So
other than the bus.
Yeah. Rosa Parks, for the NAACP, Rosa Parks was a sexual assault investigator. So in cases where African American women were sexually assaulted by men, she would investigate, try to gather evidence to get charges against the white men. And usually 9 out of 10 that's not going to happen, especially in the South. But also in instances where African American men were accused of raping a white woman or something like that. Okay, she would investigate that. She would investigate that as well and try to find evidence to help in criminal trials, etc. But this is work that she was doing. We know she was a secretary for the NAACP, but this is work that she was doing before December 1st, 1955. And this is in the week around the anniversary of the Montgomery bus boycott starting, which actually started yesterday, December 5th, 1955. But this was before December 1st, 1955, when she refused to give up her seat on that Cleveland Avenue bus in Montgomery, Alabama. And actually 4 days before that, she had attended a meeting about Emmett Till. Okay, because Emmett Till, we know, was lynched August 28th, 1955. And she had attended a meeting that Dr. T.R.M. Howard was speaking at Dexter Avenue Baptist Church there in Montgomery, Alabama on November 27th, 1955. This is 4 days before she refused to give up her seat. And she talked about how when she was sitting on the bus, she was thinking about Emmett Till, because she had just attended a meeting 4 days before about Emmett Till. The Zen Education Project, I talked about this on my show last week. The Zen Education Project has an article about this. November 27th, 1955, Rosa Parks attends a meeting about Emmett Till.
And so Reese Taylor, we talked about Reese Taylor and Miss Celia, and these women who tried to get justice for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
This stuff was happening all the time. And I want people to go to Montgomery, Alabama. It now has the museum.
The Lynching Museum? The Lynching Museum in Alabama?
The Lynching, yes. Lynching Museum. And they have one more. But what's significant about Montgomery, Alabama, is that they still have the slave trading post right in the middle of the city. They would pause and to lunch and trade slaves and sell slaves, and those folks are still sitting in the middle of Montgomery right now.
Mhm.
We're going to come back. We're going to talk about 2 more.
Yeah, because I got to get ready for my show. I had to cut out at 10:30. Okay. Stand by, everybody. Back from break in 4 minutes. Read this article here. We've talked about this on my show before. Before the bus, Rosa Parks was a sexual assault investigator. This is from history.com, official website of the History Channel. Actually, I talked about this. We talked about this a couple of days ago. I mean, last week we talked about this on my show. Stand by. All right. Who still needs to register for the online courses that I teach on Saturdays and Sundays, from the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement and Black Power, 1865 to 1968. We have a special bundle pack where you can register for both classes for only $70. That's a $260 value. Okay. Let's pull this up. Stand by, everybody. Back from break in 3 minutes. We'll post this is at our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. How's everybody doing? Okay, this is a 10-week online course that I teach. Both of them are 10-week online courses. We do the sessions live. All the sessions are archived and recorded. You can go back and watch them anytime. And understand the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach you in school. We deal with thousands of years of history, and we deal with what leads up to the transatlantic slave trade taking place also.
Betty Jean Owens, 1959, race in Florida, and Annette Butler, 1956, in Mississippi.
Okay, you said Betty Jean?
Betty Jean and Annette Butler.
Oh, okay, Betty Jean. Now that case, it's been some time since I've looked at that one. It's been some time since I looked at that one. But when we look at the history, so a good book for people to read and somebody for people to research would be Professor Stephanie E. Jones Rogers. Professor Stephanie E. Jones Rogers. She wrote a book, and I did a presentation about this. She wrote a book called "They Were Her Property." They were her property. Okay, and this book deals with, and her research deals with, how about 40% of slave owners in 1850 were white women. Okay, and there's a good article from AtlantaBlackStar.com dealing with this as well. Professor Stephanie E. Jones Rogers, and the name of the article is "A Research by Black Female Professor Reveals Startling Truth That White Women Made Up 40% of Slave Owners." Now, this is from May 25th, 2019. What'd you say?
I said, see, I mean, that's another startling statistic.
She looked at census data from 1850 to 1860. She looked at various types of data and census data and revealed that white women made up around 40% of slave owners. And this contradicts a lot of what we had been taught previously about the involvement of of some white women when it comes to slavery. Now, it's true, we do know there was some white women who were abolitionists as well, but there was more involvement in slavery, especially in this period of time that she researched, 1850 to 1860. But we also know that one of the things she talks about is how owning slaves made a white woman more suitable to marry, because it gave her more wealth, and ownership of slaves made up a greater portion on average of a white woman's wealth. Okay. Also, so it's a fascinating article and fascinating research that she's done as well. Now, when we deal with one of the examples she gives also is Martha Washington, who was married to George Washington, and Martha Washington owned more slaves than George Washington did as well. Martha Washington owned about 84 slaves when they married. Martha Washington owned about 84 slaves when they married, and George Washington owned about 18 slaves. So we know when George Washington dies, he's going to own about 318. The only one that he set free when he died, his name was William Billy Lee. William Billy Lee there's a famous painting of George Washington, and it's with an African-American man who is wearing a turban. Now, many people mistakenly believe that person wearing the turban was not a slave because he's wearing a turban. That's false. That was William Billy Lee. If you do the research on this, you'll find this out. That painting was done by an artist named John Trumbull. Okay. And John Trumbull was a famous artist. John Trumbull also was the man who did the painting of what's depicted on the back of the $2 bill. Okay. And in the back of the $2 bill, that is the drafting of the Declaration of Independence by a 5-man committee. I think it was June 28, 1776. Okay. A lot of people think it's the signing of the Declaration of Independence. No, it's the drafting of the Declaration of Independence by a 5-man committee. That was done by John Trumbull. And also the famous painting with the African-American man wearing the turban, that was done by John Trumbull as well. Okay. And that is William Billy Lee, who was George Washington's personal servant, personal valet, and he was a slave, and he was the only one that George Washington freed when Washington died. The rest of Washington's slaves, he put in his will for his wife Martha Washington to free once Martha Washington died.
And so William Billy Lee organized and cared for George Washington, right?
Yeah.
He was his personal assistant,
Yeah.
if it was today. He went where George Washington went.
Right. Yeah, William Billy Lee. There is a at mountvernon.org. Mount Vernon was George Washington's plantation. Mountvernon.org, they have information, facts on Washington, and they have an entry on for William Billy Lee as well. And they actually show the painting there of George Washington with William Billy Lee also.
And well, we only have a couple of minutes before we have to break. I want to talk about the fact that so many Black people get sentenced at a higher rate than white folks for the same crime. And now, right now, we need to be voting. We need to be on juries. We need to be wardens and guards, right? And we need to be judges. And that's why the election of, Mr. Orange Man, Trump, is going to affect Black folks for years. And we need to talk about the algorithm that his son-in-law, who is Jewish, came up with to make sure that Trump won using the electoral college. These folks, and you can see it in the insurrection, where folks that really didn't participate in the federal government. The militia, some of these backwoods folks that believe that we're still in the 1700s and black folks have no rights and this is their government. I mean,
well, what we're seeing right now. Go ahead,
Mm-hmm.
finish that thought now, and I'll wrap this up. What we're seeing right now is a continuation of the Civil War. The insurrection that we saw January 6, 2021 is a continuation of the Civil War. And there's been about 125-year effort called the Lost Cause to teach a revisionist history about why the Civil War was fought. Okay. And it teaches us revisionist history that the Civil War was about states' rights and not about slavery, which was false. The South seceded from the Union because they thought Lincoln was going to free the slaves. The first state to secede from the Union was South Carolina, December 20th, 1860, about 6 weeks after Abraham Lincoln became president-elect in that November 1860 presidential election. So when we look at the attack on voting rights in the state legislatures, when we look at the led by Republicans, and this is backed by right-wing dark money. This is backed by right-wing conservative think tanks that are crafting these boilerplate bills oftentimes. All right. Now, this is and they're targeting African Americans, they're targeting Latinos, Asian Americans to suppress the vote. Now, this is very similar to what happened after Reconstruction ended in 1870, when those former Confederate states started taking back control of their state governments and rewrite their state constitutions to legalize poll taxes, literacy tests, property ownership requirements, things like this. Mississippi, what Mississippi did became known as the Mississippi Plan. The Mississippi State Convention of 1890 legalized poll taxes and literacy tests, and then that's going to be copied by other states like South Carolina, Georgia, Louisiana, 1898, Alabama, 1901, etc. So this is why we have to vote strategically, and you have to vote more people into office who support the majority of the policies that you support, and vote people out of office who are against the policies that you support. Okay, and this is why at least at the national level, at the federal level, almost all these Republicans have to be voted out of office as much as possible, especially in the House of Representatives. You don't have all of them up for re-election in the Senate at the same time, but in the House, you had 147 traitors, Republicans in the House, who voted not to certify the presidential election. Okay, so we have to understand how all this is connected. And lastly, everybody go to my website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. You can get more information about me. You can listen to my show. I'll be on 11 p.m. tonight. I'm on Monday through Friday, 11 p.m. right here on 910 a.m. Superstation. And email me at AHNShow@AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. AHNShow@AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. If you have any questions or you want me to do a presentation for your group or organization also.
Yes, you have to inbox him if you have any questions. No question is off limits, right, Michael?
Yeah, that's fine.
So let you understand what they're doing. I mean, voter suppression, and we're falling for it. 80-some% of the people registered to vote in Detroit didn't vote in the last election, right? We're allowing a few of us to control the rest of us.
Well, because there has to be there has to be a clear message that connects what people want to how to get it, and that's through legislation. Politics shapes the economy that you're in. Politics impacts the water you drink, the air you breathe, the food you eat. Okay, everything is related to politics
Oh,
and
we're
laws and
losing
policies.
you, Michael.
Yeah, I gotta get out of here.
Thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having
We're
me, Brenda.
gonna talk about
Take
this.
care.
Hopefully,
Yeah. Yep. All right, take care. Thanks. All right, guys. I gotta get out of here. Okay, so also if you like some type of information you want to support the African History Network, $ the AHN show through Cash App, $ the AHN show through Cash App, also through PayPal, paypal.me/the AHN show. And then you can register for my online courses. We have a bundle pack. You can register for both classes for only $70. They're regularly $130 each. You can join us in class live for the classes, but all the sessions will be archived and recorded. You can go back and watch them anytime. Even after the 10-week online course is over with, you can go back and watch the classes anytime. So we have class this weekend, Sunday, December 12th, and Saturday, December 11th also. I have to get out of here and get ready for my show. I'll be back at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Right now, it's Correct Wrong Behavior. It's not over till we win. Wakanda forever. We'll talk to you later.